Put your hand up if you've met a futurist before. Yeah? Who have you met? Somebody call it out. Oh, but I'm not the only one. You've probably heard this story before. 20,000 of us in our professional association, the World Futurist Society, started in 1966, the year I was born. I was the first student member at the age of 11. There's about 900 futurists here. In our community, about a third of us work in academia and research, a third of us work in government and non-government organizations, and a third of us work in the commercial world, and that's where I come from. And what I want to do is to help you see the future. And I do this with all sorts of organizations. Literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of industry groups. In the food sector, just in the last 2 weeks, Fine Food Show talking about the future of food service. Red Meat New Zealand talking about beef and lamb. And last year, working with all sorts of organizations that are going through massive change. And you know what they say to me? They call me up and they say, please come and speak to our annual conference. But Craig, I have to tell you, we really need your help, because they'll say something like this in the briefing call. I've been in the industry 30 years or 50 years, and I can tell you, I've seen more change in the last 3 than in the last 30. Can you feel it? Can you feel it in the pit of your stomach that the world might be moving slightly faster than you are in your organization? The great futurist Alvin Toffler had a name for this. Do you remember what he called it? Future shock. Yes, we lost him last year. Some things are changing quickly in your world, so I recruited my artificial intelligence agent to go across the internet and extract for me summaries with headlines of the biggest changes happening in your industry. And I thought I'd just give you some news headlines that happened just in the last 10 days. Have you been paying attention? Did you know, for instance, that the world's best caviar now comes from China? Did you know this? Did you know that 21 of the 26 Michelin 3-star restaurants in Paris now serve Kaluga Queen Chinese caviar, not Russian caviar? Did you know? Good news for you that global consumption of fish and shellfish has been more than doubled over the last 50 years, but because the rise of population, in a video that I'll show you recently coming up, this will continue to grow. And food security as a topic for all governments worldwide is dependent on your industry to bring your solutions to this global issue. Luckily, global fish supply is projected to rise to 187 million metric tons by 2030, and just global fish oil market alone, 4 billion by 2021. And the other seafood, as it's sometimes referred to, algae, will reach projected 45 billion by 2023. This is just the news headlines delivered by my artificial news agent that just in the last 10 days. Were you paying attention? Time to turn to the person next to you and ask them this question. What changes have you seen in your industry or your life in the last 3 years that have seemed incredible to you? You have 60 seconds to discuss. Your time begins now. Ten seconds, 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's see the future, and it's incredibly important. If you pay attention to this big global management consulting firm, you may have heard of them. They're called A.T. Kearney. They went to 15,000 of their clients. Their clients tend to be board members, so they do recruiting for CEO, for C-level executives and board levels. And they went to all of their clients and they said, look back on all the strategic initiatives, the plans that you had for your industry, for your organization. Look back and see about those projects or ideas that failed. What was the common trait? And what do you think it was? Out of everything that could stop an initiative, a project from being successful, looking back, they asked 15,000 of their clients, what is the one thing that they had in common for those initiatives to fail? What do you think it is? Anyone? Not planning for the future. Got it in one. In fact, at 88% of their 15,000 clients said, we had this issue, we had this initiative, and it took us a while to frame it. Then it took us a while to initialize and get it out in the marketplace and execute on that plan. And by the time the plan was executed, the world had changed around us. Very, very common. In fact, the #1 issue for strategic plans to fail is not understanding future trends. And that's why I'm here to serve you today, to try and accelerate you, to give you a vision so you can see the future. So let's get started. Click. Let me ask you a question. Do you have an open mind? Yeah, you think so? I'm going to tell you some things today that are science-based that you won't believe. So you're going to have an open mind. And is it as open as this guy? There's this technique that I heard about. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called a tapping technique. Have you heard about the tapping technique? And it actually helps people have an open mind. You're nodding your head. You've heard about this tapping technique. So could everybody follow along with me? This will help you have an open mind. Take your index fingers like this, tap on your temples, synchronize together. I will say something, and then I'll say it again the second time, and you'll follow along. This is what I'm going to say. I have an open mind. All together now, I have an open mind. You clearly do, because I just made that up. But you have to have an open mind, because we are living in an incredible time of change, peril and opportunity at exactly the same time. But we're very, very good at protecting our existing mindset. But one of the things about exponential technology, and for it changing every industry group that I'm speaking to, especially food and especially your industry, is that technology grows on this incredible exponential curve, but people think in a very linear fashion. So they're surprised when things suddenly explode around them because they didn't see it coming. Just think about the time in history that we're living in today. Today, right now, this morning, there are individuals doing today what companies used to do. And there are some companies now doing what entire countries used to do, like SpaceX delivering all the supplies to the International Space Station when NASA can't. So let's keep our minds open to possibilities. And you may have seen this video. I know your kids have, if you've got kids, they've seen this video because it's been shown in every school in Australia. But if you haven't seen it, Did You Know video? Have you seen the Did You Know video? Yeah, well, a few of us have, but I guess I'm obliged to play it because the rest haven't. This video will show you in 2 minutes and 16 seconds the social, business, commerce, all sorts of trends in a condensed way, so I can get you guys up to speed. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to watch this video for 2 minutes, and at the end of it, you're going to turn to the person next to you and ask them, what was the most surprising thing you saw in the video? You ready? Here comes the video. peril and opportunity, the dichotomy you have to deal with in the future. Turn to your learning partner, discuss with them the most surprising thing they saw in the video. You have 45 seconds. Your time begins now. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What did you find most interesting in the video? First hand up the back.
The internet being able to be stored on.
I know, isn't it incredible? And you know, I work with the data center industry. These are the data centers that are storing your 20 billion Snapchat photos every week. I'm sure you don't do 20 billion Snap, but we do. And they have to be stored somewhere. And right now they're using spinning disks and solid state SSD disks, but they all know that they're going to have to move to DNA. And this was the thing that was most surprising to me. So I had to go find the evidence. And sure enough, this wasn't just a prediction, this was actually the fact. Microsoft has purchased last year 10 million molecules of custom synthetic biology that can store data. And the reason for this is that a tiny, tiny, tiny little amount can store an incredible amount of data. In fact, just 1 gram from this startup organization, I love their name, they're called Twist. A single gram can store 1 billion terabytes worth of data. You know how big data centers are right now? Imagine why they want to move to this technology as quickly as possible. And this same synthetic biology will impact your industry as well. But that's one example. If you'd like to read more on this subject, there's a great book written by a futurist friend of mine. You might know his name, Peter Diamandis. He started this thing called the X Prize and Singularity University. In 2012, he wrote this great book that I give to all my pessimist friends. It's called Abundance, The Future's Better Than You Think. And it talks about these incredible exponential technologies that will transform the world. The World Economic Forum at Davos is calling this the 4th Industrial Revolution that will not only change every industry on the face of the planet, but because of synthetic biology, will also change us as humans. This guy said you should really read it. Bill Gates put it on his summer reading list and said, it's the book that every modern executive should read. I will make an offer to you. If you get a copy of this book or listen to the audiobook, or maybe you can only have time to watch the 20-minute TED Talk from Peter Diamandis, in a month's time, if you'd like to have a cup of coffee together, a virtual cup of coffee, we'll do it as a video conference. Let's have a discussion around what this means to you as an industry. To give you a head start, this is the cheat sheet. This is the time you should pull out your mobile device ready to snap a picture of the slide. Because these are the 8 exponential technologies that will solve the world's biggest problems, including yours, that you're having in your industry. They are, at number 1, infinite computing. We just talked about that. Imagine how much storage we could have when a single gram can store 1 billion terabytes worth of data for 1,000 years. At number 2, sensors and networks. 3, robotics. 4, 3D printing, which is a specialized form of robotics. 5, synthetic biology. 6, digital medicine. 7, nanomaterials. And at 8, artificial intelligence. And there's one of these that will impact your industry in the next 5 years more than any other. Turn to your learning partner and ask them what number will impact your industry more than any other. You have 30 seconds to discuss. Your time begins now. What number do you think?
I'm leaning toward robotics.
Yes.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, on the count of 3, I'm going to ask you to hold up the number of fingers of the number that you think will have the biggest impact on your industry group. On the count of 3, hold up your fingers. 1, 2, 3. 3, 4, 5, 8, 1. Yeah, you're all wrong. Actually, it's all of them. It's all of them. But the number 1 we were just discussing here, number 1's got to be robotics, don't you think? Obviously. So let me inform you about how the world is right now and what we're looking towards in the future. And you might be saying to yourself at this point, but this doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm in the seafood industry. How can any of these trends that Craig's talking about impact my organization? That's what Sony said just before the iPod came out. That's what Nokia said to me. They said, we have 45% market share. We're Nokia. Then the iPhone came out. Just saying. This morning, had to log in and check the Wall Street Journal. This morning, while you were sleeping last night, another unicorn was born. Do you know what a unicorn is? It's $1 billion organization that hasn't listed yet. $1 billion organization. Put your hand up if your organization is $1 billion organization. Just saying. Another one was born last night. You can do this yourself. You can go to the Wall Street Journal and see the incredible growth that has taken place from 2014 until now, and including last night when another unicorn was born. $1 billion organization, and many of these startup businesses are using these 8 driving forces as the drafting power that is pushing them along. They are using synthetic biology. They are using robotics, algorithms, 3D printing. And it's making them 10 times faster than you are for 1/10 the capital investment. We call them exponential organizations, and you know their names. Even though many of them are not part of this long list, you know their names. Do you know these names? The list is pretty long. I mean, look at that. 168. And at the number 1 at the top of the list, who do you think it is? Right up there. Valued at $68 billion. Uber. $68 billion. Now, one of my industry groups that I have dealt with in the past, been one of past client, is the Taxi Industry Association of America. The Taxi Industry Association of America, the entire value of the entire taxi industry is about $15 billion. This one organization is many multiples bigger than the entire industry group combined. So when I asked them, are you a member of the Taxi Association? What do you think they said? Irrelevant. Anybody know who Didi is? They're the Uber of China, and they actually invest in each other, so they're sister companies. So together, they're valued at more than $100 billion, and they haven't even listed yet. Obviously, they're having some cultural issues within this organization right now, but hopefully the new CEO will sort it out. Next one's Xiaomi. They make the Mi phone. Airbnb. The list goes on, and if you just think about it as you go down the list and talk about DJI that makes drones that's now valued at $10 billion, this organization couldn't have existed 5 years ago. Could not have existed, could not have sold drones 5 years ago. Just think about that. And it's now valued at $10 billion. So what does this mean to us as an industry group? It means, well, I got to ask the question, how are you engaging with startups? How are you engaging with startups? If you were advising your teenager who wanted to go into the auto industry, who would you tell them to go to work for right now? Uber? Ford? Honda? General Motors? Uber, the world's largest transportation company, owns no vehicles. They are more valuable than Ford, GM, and Honda, and that happened in less than 5 years. When I asked Airbnb if they're part of the Hotels Association, what did they say? Irrelevant, because they are valued at many times more than the entire industry group. Airbnb, the largest accommodation provider, owns no real estate, now more valuable than Marriott and Hilton. And in your industry, the food industry, Blue Apron fell off the list recently because they listed and they were valued on the stock market as a $2 billion organization. Another $2 billion organization, HelloFresh, delivering fresh seafood to people with pre-cut up portions so you can cook it easily at home. This is such big business. Amazon has just gotten into this business as well. And I don't know if you've heard. Have you heard Amazon's coming? Just saying. So, discussion with your learning partner. When do you think we'll have an Uber or Airbnb of our industry group? When do you think we'll have that? You have 30 seconds to discuss. Your time begins now. Maybe they're already here. Maybe they're already here.
Yeah.
But you just don't see them yet because they're below. Yeah. Yeah. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So when do you think? When do you think we might have an Uber? When do you think? Yeah, and what are they called? Yeah, I think they might be called G-Fresh. Because G-Fresh is expecting its sales to be $1.5 billion by the end of next year, and they didn't even exist 2 years ago. I mean, it just started 2 years ago. How many seafood startups are there in the world today? There are, in fact, if you go to Crunchbase, that has a database of all the startups in the world, 38 seafood startups that have received funding. In 2016, they received 193, almost $200 million US in funding, but there's actually more money available than innovative ideas in the industry, they say. So let's think about the technology in the food industry, and it's not just your industry, because you're part of the community, as we heard about. You're part of a distribution flow that's not just your industry, it's also food retail and it's food service. And recently I've been collaborating with Food Industry Foresight, and they've been willing to share some of their data with me that I thought I'd share with you. If you were devising a strategy and you wanted to go to retail or food service that was the most growable over the next 5 to 10 years, would it be retail or food service? The most growable, not the biggest. What is the most growable? What do you think? Food service. This is the reason why. Right now, Australians like to eat out a lot. We do it a lot. We eat breakfast, we eat brunch, we eat lunch, we eat dinner, and then we go to Gelato Messina at 10:30 at night. Do you know more people go to Gelato Messina at 10:30 at night than any other time during the day? Google tells you this. Do you go to Gelato Messina at 10:30 at night? I do. So here's the current snapshot that they were happy to share with me. It's $172 billion in the retail and food service total. $115 billion of that is retail, cutthroat, low margin business. Food service, 57 billion and growing quite significantly. And if you drill down into food service, you've got commercial outlets. Would it surprise you that there are 63,099 cafes, restaurants? This doesn't include convenience stores. They don't count the convenience stores. This is just somewhere you can go in, sit down, or take away food that is served to you. Would that surprise you, that number? And look at the growth. Not too bad, 3.45%. Then you've got the institutional outlets. Think aged care, airlines, hospitals, and so on. Another 20,000 almost, 19,540 with 5% growth. Why would you think that it's 5%? And the projected future is this. As Australians today, we spend 33 cents out of every dollar out of our pocket eating out. 33 cents. In America, it's 51 cents. We're on track to get to 51 cents within the next 15 years. Do you think that's a valid prediction? I think so. So let's talk about what's going to impact retail, food service, and your industry the most. And if you look at all of that, it's got to be, Brian got it at number 1. He said, number 3, Craig, robotics. And I'd love to talk to you about this for several hours, but I've only got a few minutes remaining. So here's the condensed version. In the 1970s, I got to use one of the world's first general computers. This general computer, I could put in a floppy disk, and I could get a new program. And at one moment, it could do a spreadsheet, VisiCalc. At the next moment, it could be a word processor. It would do WordPerfect. Remember WordPerfect? And then I could put in another disk, and I could play Load Runner. Well, that was one of the best-selling computers of all time because it was a general-purpose computer. This is called Sawyer. Sawyer is a general-purpose robot that's safe to interact with humans. You can even put it around kids because it won't hurt kids. It can see, has sensors, and kids play with Sawyer all the time. Sawyer has one arm, and it can watch you doing a task, and then it will replicate the task that you have done. Now, you don't have to buy Sawyer, although you could probably afford to buy Sawyer. In fact, it actually falls in under the $20,000 write-off in a year. But most organizations are actually deciding to hire it at a billable hour, and its billable hour is $15.50 Australian. But it works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, doesn't turn off until the power goes off in Sydney, which is increasingly happening. So, see the robots? These robots are printing metal now and building a bridge over a dam in Amsterdam as we speak today. I know this doesn't impact your industry, but imagine in the future you could deliver straight to home with delivery robots, and the robot at home could cook you a dish like Chef Gordon Ramsay did, specifically that fish dish that you just saw on that TV program. Meet Molly. Molly Robotics will copy that chef and cook that meal for you at home. Have a look at this.
Imagine having a 5-star chef cooking all your meals for you every day of your life. This is the dream and the goal that Molly Robotics is trying to accomplish. They have created the first fully automated and intelligent robots that can learn recipes, cook all kinds of foods with a remarkable precision, and then clean up after themselves. Molly Robotics built a working prototype of the Molly Kitchen. This futuristic-looking workstation is equipped with advanced robotic arms and hands that can grip kitchen utensils, measure liquids, crack eggs, you name it, they can do it. Master Chef winner Tim Anderson was hired on as Molly's development chef and helped the robotics team teach the robots how to cook by using motion capture gloves and wristbands, much like a video game. This means you can potentially record the movements of other famous chefs and have a meal prepared for you indirectly by, let's say, Chef Gordon Ramsay.
You're in denial!
Turn to the person next to you, point at them and say, "You're in denial!" You got to love them. Don't you love them? Did you see this last week? Made in China. China builds the world's largest first offshore fish farm. Ocean Farm 1 is built by the Chinese shipbuilding corporation CSIS for a Norwegian client, of course, because they always do it better in Norway. They're known for innovation. You know, that massively populated country that has that significant demographic advantage over us. Hold on a second. How many people in Norway? 5.5 million. Oh. I'm going to show you a video. What I want you to look for are tiny little ants standing upright. Those little ants standing upright are the people working on this rig. They look, it's huge, it's gigantic. 7 employees, because of automation and robots, will farm 1 million fish. Have a look. It's pretty big. Can you see the tiny little ant-like things on it? Those are people. It is massive. Incredible. Delivered last week, well, 10 days ago. Build it around the clock, 24 hours. Tow it all the way to Norway. Anchor it off just like an oil rig, but it's even bigger than an oil rig, only has 7 people on it. This is the first one. It's a test bed for the future, the world's largest aqua farm. And it's the first one. And I know what you're saying. We could never do anything like this in Australia. We're only 20 million people. Well, they did it in Norway. Just saying. And you know Morel, they're using fuzzy logic and machine learning as well. For portioning, for taking out pin bones. It's all automated. It's like science fiction, but it's actually science reality today.
Laser vision systems enter the picture. They scan the fillets and help sophisticated software deliver the best cutting pattern for each one in only a fraction of a second. Advanced fillet portioning systems use X-rays and 3D scanners to detect pin bones with incredible accuracy, and then direct water jet cutters to remove them. The same machine then portions the fish according to computer-calculated patterns. This way, the primary product ratio can be maximised. This automated pin boning and portioning process improves yield and quality and creates less waste. Every piece of the raw material is valuable. Trim and pieces that cannot be sold as whole primary products are used to create a variety of tasty treats. This delivers high yield and added value to both the processor and the consumer. The final step of production is also controlled and monitored by high-tech systems and software. Advanced packing, labelling and palletizing systems use the data collected throughout the process to pack fish into target weight, fixed weight or other types of packs according to orders. Retail packs are automatically labelled. The labels include traceability information like origin of catch, country of production, or other data that legislation may require. The final product is then dispatched to customers. Throughout this process, integrated food production software has kept track of each fish. This live monitoring allows processors to improve and control every aspect of the fish's journey from the sea to the supermarket. In only a few hours, fresh catch has been processed, packed and shipped to consumers around the world. All this is made possible using advanced, cutting-edge technology that once existed only in science fiction, but now controls the fish processing floor. High-quality products are created with high-tech systems.
And just think when DJI comes out with the first waterproof drone that can fly long distances and dive into the water, swim, launch out of the water and fly back to you. It has batteries on it. How can it possibly do it? They've already invented it at the university in America. First application, launching from submarines. But how long until it comes to your industry? Have a look at this.
We actually call this vehicle the Navigator for the capabilities of Navy and air. It's a drone that is able to fly and also maneuver underwater. So it's literally a new device that was not available before. So we were very lucky to get the Office of Naval Research to fund this work.
We usually never see vehicles that can operate in multiple environments. We only see ones that operate in either air, water. This vehicle, you can actually take it in many environments.
They have submarines that can launch things from the submarine and it pops out into the water and it goes, does some things, but it can't come back, right? It does one mission and one mission only. And then you have some airplanes that deploy vehicles from the air that dive into the water, and then from then on they're in the water, they can't come back out. So what this vehicle does is it does all those things. It can get out from underwater and it can go into the water from the air. So effectively it can do all sorts of missions.
So literally you have a threat or you have a mission to accomplish, you release the vehicle from a bridge, from a boat. It travels some distance, goes underwater, does the job, comes back. So it's rapid deployment, I think is a key word in there. Oh, they have a number of applications that we've been talking about, bridge inspections. You can deploy from the bridge, goes underwater, investigates, you can make a decision, do I need to send a repairman or not? Another one is pollution. You have an oil spill. You can investigate how deep, how far it goes.
I think the scalability is going to be one of the biggest problems with this. It's been hard to make it so that it can actually carry payloads that are relevant or even useful.
Improve its robustness underwater, make it so that it can go in all sorts of directions, do all sorts of missions.
This is the first prototype. It's still in a basic concept. We like to make it more robust, be able to go faster, deeper, add more sensors, be able to do more. So it's just increasing its capabilities.
First industry, other than the military, that asked for this the moment they saw the video? Surfing industry. On the list, with the time that I have remaining, sensors and networks. An Israeli startup decided to go onto Kickstarter. They wanted to take these big industrial near-infrared scanners that can easily scan a material, a life form, and look at its unique molecular fingerprint. This is called spectrography, if you know anything about this. They wanted to move it from a large device like this and put it into a handheld device. They've now shrunk it to a camera that you can put on a smartphone, and announced in January, Changzhong smartphone company from China, $500 smartphone with a molecular scanner built in that can scan your fish. And because the molecular structure of fish that feed in the southern waters are different from the same breed of fish that might feed in the northern waters, you can say, this is where the country of origin is, for instance. And imagine in a future where a consumer scans something and it tells them how fresh it is. This is shipping this year.
Remember how exciting a new phone used to be? Sure, smartphones keep getting better, but better isn't good enough. We want a phone with the power to change the way we live. Introducing the Changhong H2, the only phone with a material sensor that can scan and analyze physical objects. The H2's material sensor absorbs light reflected back from an object, breaks it down into a spectrum, and analyzes it to determine its chemical makeup. Every object has a unique molecular fingerprint. The H2 is the only phone that can read it. It brings the power of laboratory science to the everyday, revealing a world of information never accessible before. From the sweetness of a fruit off the shelf to biometrics from your biceps, the H2 gives us the ability to discover more. Now your phone can verify a product's authenticity and warn you if something's not right. It's a brand new way to experience the world and all the sweetness it has to offer. Imagine a future where a phone can scan your skin or bring the real world into a virtual game. With a high-density polymer battery, fingerprint sensor, 6-inch full HD display, all-metal aircraft-grade aluminum frame,
and only $500. Imagine when these sensors, I've been working with Woolies and Kohl's and their suppliers in retail, and I don't know if you know about this, but there is over $2 billion worth of food fraud in this country every year. And the reps that go out into the stores are trying to verify that the products they see on the shelves are actually from Nestle, for instance. And the counterfeits are so good that the reps from the company can't identify them. So what they want to do is put biomarkers on their Gillette razors that can be picked up. At the point of sale, where you scan the barcode, you also do a molecular code scan to verify that that product is actually the product in the packaging. It can scan through transparent packaging. It's pretty good. Last trend that I can talk to you about, and then we're going to address the elephant in the room, and then my time will be up. Synthetic biology and molecular genetics. Talk to universities about what they're doing in this area. This is where all the research is happening right now at UNSW, UTS, Sydney University, where you combine the DNA through, we have gene printers now. I don't know what kind of printers you had when you went to university. We have gene printers. We can print custom DNA on the desktop now, or send it out to a lab to have it done. This Aqua Bounty combined the Chinook growth hormone gene with the Atlantic salmon and discovered they could reduce the time to market from 3 years to 18 months for their salmon. This is an example, and I've only got a few minutes remaining, so I'll only give you a quick view of the spider goats that are whose milk produce fibers that are stronger than Teflon, and they're used for bulletproof vests. Here are the spider goats.
These?
Yep.
Goats?
These are our goats.
So they're just regular goats?
They're absolutely regular goats.
Except they're not. They're totally incredible goats.
So over here we have the kids that were born this year, and then the older goats are all on that side.
And these are your spider goats?
These are the spider goats.
And they're eating my top. Hey, come on. Hey, behave. Just because you're on camera. And so these kids have the genes for a spider in them.
Yes.
It's insane. And where does the spider silk actually come from? I mean, where do you get it?
Well, it was designed so it comes in the milk.
They look like such normal goats, but in fact they're totally unique and bizarre. I mean, this is bizarre.
Sounds bizarre. The product is called, if you want to Google it, BioSteel. BioSteel. Stronger than steel. Stronger than steel. Should we talk about Amazon, or should I end now? The elephant in the room, right? Early evidence, you know they spent $13 billion in buying Whole Foods? You know they're coming to Australia. Who will they buy? Woolies, Coles, Aldi, Harris Markets. Probably Harris Markets. They're most like Whole Foods. Early reports are pretty good. In fact, they added just 365 new products to the Whole Foods website that you could order online. So when you went to do your shopping, it would be in store and you could pick it up. So it was virtual products. They weren't in store unless you ordered them. They only had 2,000 quantity, so 2,000 of each of the 365 items. In the first week that they did this, $500 million in sales. Just with 365 items and only 2,000 of them. So you think this is working out pretty well for them? So what does this mean for Australian retail and meal kit delivery? Well, Amazon has the best logistics in the world. When I went to school, we would study Walmart on how they had the best logistics in the world. Do you know that Amazon owns an airline? And they have robots in their warehouse, and the first warehouse is going into Dandenong with 3,000 of these robots that can pick up 750 kilos and bring the items to the people who used to walk around. Have you seen this? When I show this to people who run warehouses, you know what they say to me? I give up. Little secret about the Kiva robots, they can operate at 25 degrees below zero. So you think they're going to do frozen products with this as well? Of course they are. It hasn't put anybody out of business. Amazon's one of the biggest employers in the world, certainly one of the biggest employers in America. They're recruiting an extra 200,000 employees in America right now. Here in Australia, there's 500 positions going right now on LinkedIn, and they haven't even hired anybody for the warehouse yet. Would you like to know what the hottest seafood products are selling on Amazon right now, like this second? So you go to Google, you type in Amazon bestsellers, and they update with their API every single hour the hottest selling products. You know, things like Cards Against Humanity. That's a sick game, very sick game. Fidget cubes, and of course the Alexa Amazon. But you can go to grocery and fresh food or packaged seafood, and it will show you hourly what are the hottest sellers. One innovative food company I know got their data scientists to tap into their API to look at the gap in the marketplace in Germany where they didn't have products, that they had products in the US, and it told them, you should make these products. Worked out pretty well. They filled a gap in the market. So everybody's saying, but we live in Australia, and we've got this massive continent. There's no way they're going to be able to fix the logistics issue that we have. How will Amazon fix this? Anyone? Drones? Of course drones. But drones have to land somewhere and get charged. So where are they going to land? In the frickin' Zeppelin.
Amazon conducted its first drone delivery earlier this month, but it's apparently already planning ahead for when a drop-by drone is Amazon's go-to delivery method. This is Amazon's concept for an airborne fulfillment center. Think of it as a warehouse way up in the sky. According to the patent application, the fulfillment center would house items available for purchase on the website. Drones carrying orders would be deployed from the center. Once the drones made their deliveries, they'd then fly to a location to be sent back to the airborne center. Smaller shuttles would deliver the drones items to restock the warehouse and employees to the aerial fulfillment center.
And you think I'm making this up. Guys, I'm going to have to leave it there. I would love to continue the conversation with you, and I literally have nothing to sell you. I don't have a membership website or a book you can buy or anything like that. But I'll be in the expo area if you want to ask me any questions. And if you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, I've already uploaded my slides. I can't upload the videos, they don't belong to me. But if you Google the name of the videos, you'll be able to find them on YouTube as well. I hope that has helped you see a little bit of the future, but I'd love to continue the conversation with you. Thank you so much for the invitation to present to you today.